rights, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As a reminder, this meeting is being recorded. This evening, it is not being live streamed due to some technical constraints. But we will make sure that it is up on YouTube and the usual channels immediately following. So before we get into our regular business, we do have executive session this evening, and we do have James Ryan from Templeton joining us for executive session. And so out of respect for his time, I wanted to see if there was any opposition from my fellow committee members to move executive session up to right now so that he can be on his way and go about their business. Is anyone opposed to that?
No.
Okay. Then I would entertain a motion to enter into executive session as per Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, for reason number 3, to discuss strategy with respect to negotiation with the UFCW if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the litigating position of the public body and the chair so declares. The meeting will return into open session immediately following. Motion by Danielle. Second by roll call Hank.
Aye.
Elizabeth. Danielle. Heather. And I say yes. So that is unanimous. So we'll be entering to executive session. So what that means for those of you who are with us this evening, if you would, you have friends tonight is the good news. So you would hang out with your friends out in the hallway, and then we'll be back.
Keep the library if you'd like as well. So
Okay, thank you everyone for your patience. As prefaced in the motion to go into executive session, what was under discussion was negotiations with UFCW, and that was specifically in relation to the UFCW contract as written for the period 2026 to 2029. So coming out of executive session, we have to repeat the vote that was done in executive session in live session to make it all official. So I would entertain a motion to accept the UFCW contract as written for 2026 to 2029 as written. Motion by Hank, second by Heather. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, I want to very briefly repeat for the public that what school committee landed on was that this was an excellent negotiation. So I just want to say thank you so much to the UFCW members for showing up, for how they came around to the table with school committee, with the district administration, and really worked hard for their votes, but also worked hard in a collaborative nature to make sure that everyone was going to be set up for success. So I just wanted to make that statement before we vote. So it's a roll call vote. So Hank.
Aye.
Elizabeth. Aye. Danielle. Aye. Heather. Aye. James.
No.
And I say yes. So that does pass by majority. All right. Thank you, everyone, and thank you for your patience. James, you are welcome to stay if you would like. Also excused.
Thank you so much, school committee, for taking that out. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
I will excuse myself.
All right. So we will start moving into our regular business. And the first item, don't worry about it, James, go right ahead. And the first item is related to approval of minutes, but I just realized that I apologize, the written motion is out of sync with the attached minutes, but the attached minutes are correct. So please note that I'm going to make a change to the motion as it was written. I would entertain a motion to approve the meeting minutes of July 14, 2026 as written. So motion by Danielle, second by Heather. Any questions or comments about those minutes? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Abstained? And I say yes, so that is unanimous. Moving further, I would entertain a motion to accept the bills and payroll warrants as presented.
So moved.
Motion by Hank, and second by Danielle. Any questions or comments on those bills and payroll? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? And I say yes, so that is unanimous. I am sure we will have a student representative joining us shortly, once the school year is kicked off. But until then, it is time for public input, so if you intend to speak this evening, just please make sure your name is on the sign-up list. I will take whoever was first on the list. I think, John, you were first because you were here. Just a reminder to state your name and the zone that you're from.
John Valentine, Templeton, Mass. Thank you. I just wanted to remind folks that Templeton will be facing a possible override and to pay their deficit for the rest of the year because they're in the deficit of $1.1 million. So it may pass, it may not pass, and the likelihood it could pass. But in any event, after that, when the school committee passes its potential $1.5 million increase for fiscal year 2028, then there may be more overrides. So I asked this committee to really dig deep and spend the money wisely this year, so there'll be monies left over. So there won't be a fiscal year 28 massive increase because the town doesn't have it. The towns don't have it, Templeton doesn't have it. And they're not going to continually vote in overrides year after year, because that's what we're facing. We're facing year after year overrides. So that's what we're facing. And I also wanted to bring up that, the E&D for 2026 is potentially $236,000. Those are uncertified numbers. So hopefully those will be applied to the assessment in 2028. But here's a good example about stewardship of monies and being mindful of the monies for the taxpayer. Listen, I'm not picking on custodians. It's a noble profession to do a great job. There's 13.5 custodians for the district. That's more than the police and fire combined together. Is that real? Is that real world? More custodians than police and fire in the town of Templeton. I'm not picking on them, I'm just stating the fact. Wouldn't 10 work out? Isn't 10 reasonable? 3 for each school plus one float will go where they need. That's what I'm talking about in terms of cutting back a little bit. Besides, it has nothing to do with education. Nothing to do with education, not hurting the children in any way. It's a building that's open 7 hours a day, 180 days a year, and it's not a meat processing factory. It's a professional building. It's generally clean. That's all I'm saying. Things like that could be looked at and addressed for the taxpayer of the towns, so they're not going override, because at some point, the overrides are not going to happen. And then what happens? The town goes bankrupt, and who knows what happens then? I'm just telling you how I see that train going down the road. Thank you for your time.
Any other speakers this evening?
Good evening, Jeff Bennett, Templeton. I just have 2 quick things. We haven't really quite finished fiscal 27 up, but fiscal 28 will be around the corner quick. I would ask the committee and the superintendent to kind of follow school committee policy under fiscal management to engage thorough advanced planning with the staff and the communities at large. It's not looking for a budget outline or the draft budget, but things like remind people of the cost increases that are coming, like busing, contractual teachers' contracts, just an idea of things that may be increasing that will cost an increase in the budget. The sooner, the better, I think, for community engagement, to prepare them and remind them that these are things that go up that we have no control. I think the more information and the sooner, the better. On the second thing, this is an ask or a suggestion. Speaking as a selectman for the town of Templeton, I'm 70, I'm not gonna be here for a long time, but we have to, I believe it's time, way past time, to engage the younger folks. And I'm talking about maybe like the 11th, and 12th graders who are getting close, if not there, before they leave school, they're eligible to vote. They may be taking courses or they may be interested in things that maybe relate to municipal governance or it could help them out. And my aim would be to have, if there's interest, and I will reach out to the superintendent after the fact, to see if there's interest, to have them come to the meetings, maybe get information, to introduce them and explain the hows and the whys. Why do we cut this? Why do we have to do it this way? Why it takes so long? And so forth. Again, to get them interested and engaged and maybe do like some guy I know that was 18 years old or so and ran for school committee and sits there. Get involved and learn the process. If nothing else, if they stay around in Templeton, it would make them a better citizen and a better informed voter. I just think it's a good thing to try. If anyone wants to come, it could even get on the agenda to have a back and forth with them. Just tossing this out there because I think it's time. And if there's interest, I'd love to hear about it. So thank you for your time, Madam Chair.
Good evening, Sylvia Haley from Phillipston. My question is, I'd like an update on the middle and high school roof, if there's any information on that, how that's progressing and things. Thank you.
NDEA is understandably enjoying the last couple weeks of their break while also fiercely prepping to come back to the school, I am sure. So we will move right into our budget update. So I'll let you, it says FY26 and then FY27. I will let you just flow one right into the other.
So FY 26, we are down spending. It closes July 15th is the last day that you can process stuff. We are waiting, I guess not anxiously, but the Department of Ed has not put out an end-of-year report spreadsheet yet, but I'm sure it's coming in the next couple of weeks. That is due on the 30th of September. Once that happens, then the Department of Revenue's report that certifies E&D, that is due the end of October. So I can't say that I'm anxiously awaiting them. I'd like to get them off my to-do list, but they're a lot of work. And right now, those groups are taking priority. So FY26 is closed. It's behind us, except for our reports that we have to do. FY27, as you know, July, we were 1/12. I think from our dollar limit that we were allowed to spend, I think we had like $5,500 left that we didn't spend. It was close. And September has 3 payrolls in it for us, so it was going to be really hard to come under that limit. We were probably going to have to not pay some bills that month in order to cover payroll. So I'm glad that that has been lifted. I'm just gonna go right into business manager.
Go right ahead.
I have all of the final FY26 on there. I also did in July. There's no grants, so I'm still in the process working with the principals to get those written. But those are coming along and hopefully they'll be like something before school starts.
Okay, so I left this on here just in case there was continuing interest in the MASC delegate appointment. I know Heather continues to hold this. She has also held it for us multiple years. So I will leave this on here. I'm not gonna, since it is a light forum this evening, I'm not going to pursue it. However, we'll just leave it on for the next time. Yasmin had offered to be the legislative representative. Hank came in after her. Sorry, Hank. I know that you were racing for that. But again, I'm going to postpone in consideration of Yasmin not being here, and we will just vote her in next time. Now, we do have a Phillipston vacancy, and so we do have Mr. Joseph Valancourt, who prefers to go by Joe. He is here this evening. If you could just stand up for just a moment so that we can see you. We won't make you come down to the front.
Perfect.
But Mr. Valancourt was kind enough to write his letter of intent, which I know that everybody on school committee received in advance. So hopefully you've had a moment to read that. So to remind folks, typically how this goes is that we've received a letter of intent. We give an opportunity for a couple school committee members to ask a couple of questions so that we can get to know Mr. Valancourt beyond his letter. The mic will pick you up just fine, so don't worry about it. Project a little bit so that we can hear you, but you should be fine near the mic as you are. And so I would open it up to my fellow school committee members to ask any questions you might have.
Don't scare
First, thank you. This spot has been open for quite some time, and it will be nice to have another Phillipston person at the table. My question to you is one that was asked to me when I submitted my letter of intent, and it is, how do you plan on balancing the needs of the district and all of the students and all of the staff with your personal, not personal agenda, but the personal wants and asks for your own children in the district?
Sure. I think the easiest to explain that is I got two kids that have gone through the school system. So I've seen needs that the school system could use. But in my personal life, your professional life, I should say, it's all business, and it's about finding the most value from anything you can get. So that's what I would try to bring to this, and make sure we're just getting the most value from anything we have.
So so one of the questions I would ask you is that coming into school committee can often feel a little overwhelming. We have several new members this year because there's so much to learn. Because like even if you understand finances, for example, school finances are a whole new bucket of fun. Or there's policies and things. So one of the things I'm always curious about is in a space where you are coming in and you have let me express, first of all, there is the richness of your historical experience, both with the district and in your business, and yet you're also in this brand new world. Talk to me a little bit about how you navigate new spaces and how you like to show up in them as you are still learning, but also eagerly starting to participate.
Sure. At first, I won't do a lot. I'm going to sit back. I'm going to learn. There's no sense in making decisions or changes of things I don't know about. So first and foremost, in the beginning, it would just be watching, learning, and then understanding why things are the way they are, assessing the situation, and then seeing what kind of changes we can make down the road once I kind of understand things.
And trust me, there will be plenty of opportunities to have those learning opportunities, and we'll make sure you all have them. So we have, in addition to school committee, there's also subcommittees. So we try to spread out you folks across those committees so that they have opportunities to learn from the folks who have been here for a while. So we would make sure that you both have spaces to ask questions and also that you're surrounded by folks who have been doing it. Okay. Any other questions?
I don't have a question. I have a comment. I appreciate your last answer because I'm also in the information gathering, so.
I'm still learning, so.
Oh, you're still learning 51 years in. We're at 52 now.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I didn't have a question, but I would just simply say that, first off, thank you been a while since we've been full committee, but my role in this obviously is to be a resource to you. So, and we'll have a chance to chat, obviously, but just please let me know whatever you need from us. So that way we can help kind of shorten the curve, as you get acclimated, but don't hesitate to, of course, reach out to my office or otherwise if you have any questions.
And as many school committee members will tell you who have joined this way, the great part is that you get about 9 months to get acclimated and figure out if this is something you really enjoy and want to do. The answer is yes. Yes, it is. And then you would proceed through the election process itself.
Cool. Okay.
With that, I would entertain a motion to appoint Mr. Joseph Valancourt to the Narragansett Regional School District School Committee.
So moved.
Motion by Danielle. Second by Heather. Any remaining questions or comments? There we go. I was waiting for Hank. He always says for me.
I was actually just at this line, I missed it. What are you gonna do?
Seeing none, all in favor?
I,
Opposed, abstained, and I say yes, so that is unanimous. So thank you so much. We're so excited to have you here.
Thank you. Awesome.
All right, into our next piece of exciting business. I know that this is much awaited. We have our student and family handbook. So as a reminder, this was on the agenda a few months ago, but every year the student family handbook has to not only go through the district to look for changes, but also through the legal process to make sure that everything is looking good and we're fully up to date. So I know that, and thank you, Dr. C and Anne Marie and whoever else was involved in putting together this summary of changes. They very kindly, in a many page handbook, took those out to make sure that we had access to the summary of changes. So, there was, I'm going to read out a short summary. I'm not going to go through the individual bullet points, but there was content changes related to digital and AI use. There were updates, associated with legal updates related to civil rights and belonging. There was updates around attendance and family notice of attendance or chronic absenteeism. As you might know, if you've been following the news, those have been particular areas of interest of the state, as that's been a challenge across the state. Is attendance, discipline, bullying, and safety. We often see updates in there, again, in alignment with changes and updates to disciplinary measurements, reporting investigation, student access and records, and then any program and school updates. So anything that just updates how the school is operating from year to year. Is there anything of note? When I was reviewing this, it looked mostly like light policy updates and reflection of the typical ongoing changes year to year. I could have missed it, but I did not see a major update in relation to, like, I'm comparing it to the year that we had a massive overhaul of the dress code policy as an example.
I would say, Madam Chair, that nothing that was of surprising. AI was probably the kind of the newest thing, right? But generally when the attorney goes through it, there's always something. A couple things that we noticed, or he noticed, is that we did not post the number in which folks can actually call their child in to be absent. Now everyone knows, it says who to call, right? So if you're elementary, you call elementary, but it actually has to have the number per the statute. So those are the kind of, when I say nitpicky, that's great. That's, they're really taking a hard look at this, but no, the Mahmood case, which, has come in and out of the news lately, through, of course, the Supreme Court, but those updates will continue as more cases go to court, right? So that's in general what happens every year. It's really, they're just updating as to what has happened in this change. So no, nothing. And actually, he said it looked well. He'd been doing this stuff for 3 years on our contract alone. McAvoy, and he said it was good. It passes muster.
And as such, I would entertain a motion to approve the 2026-2027 Student and Family Handbook as presented.
Could I ask a
Question? Hold on just a second, so we can get the motion on the table, and then yes.
So
Motion by Hank, second by Heather. Any questions or comments?
So what's the process here? Does it go through a final edit and then it gets sent, or is it?
So if you see the red, I said the red line, I can't remember if I said the red line. Okay, so the red line version is, you can see, was 183 comments or something by whatever changes. So what we'll do now is we'll go through it and accept all of those changes, and we'll make sure that it's aligned, because all the spacing is built off anyway. We'll make all that. We'll have a couple folks look at that to make sure it's aligned perfectly. We'll PDF it. Will be no longer draft, your correction, and then we'll be able to put it out. But yes, we'll have the admin team look at it and others to make sure that we.
The red lines are for us, because otherwise it
School
becomes very,
committee sees that.
it becomes very difficult as school committee to
What are the two?
easily know what the differences are between the old version and the new, but yeah, they're always removed before it goes.
I did have a question on the wording in the e-bike section on, I think it was, I have to go back up to it. It is
Personal on page 25.
And I would like to think that common sense would prevail here using the terminology. I need to find the page so I know exactly what.
Page 25, sorry.
Yeah, page 25, it's actually in red, so it should be nice, yeah, easy for you to find.
It's the other personal mobility devices. Of course, when I think of personal mobility devices, I think of electronic wheelchairs and the such. And I'm hoping that common sense prevails and we understand that those are not included in there, but I don't know if that's a concern or could be a concern.
It's a great question, because you're right that there's language, there is disability language that could be associated with. There's also e-bikes that it could be associated with. The challenge is that, and since it's went through legal, I'm not concerned, but it's a great question to ask. What they're essentially trying to do is that in a world where the technology around bikes and scooters and variations, skateboards, etc., may evolve past the point where this is written, that there is some sort of all-encompassing word that can ensure that this applies beyond the named items. But I would say, had this not gone through legal, I would have pause, but knowing that this has gone through legal and legal felt that it was defendable and good to go, then I'm feeling okay about it. What I would suggest is that we could maybe even put a pin in that one as something to revisit in the next year's handbook, which is what we've done, for example, dress code in the past, to say, hey, did we have any confusion about this term over the course of the year, or did common sense prevail, as you said, for your language, and it was good. But yeah, we often will make notations of things we want to revisit the following year.
And they can reach out to me to say, hey, this included. I think what he would say is that a wheelchair would be covered under the ADA guidelines, which means that if you needed, let's put it this way, if you needed to come to school in a wheelchair, motorized wheelchair, then you're allowed. And there's, do you know what I'm saying? So
And you don't have to get up walking.
and it does, it supersedes the rules of all other personal, like these bikes and scooters, because that is, you're not required or don't need an e-bike to come to school technically, but you would if you had a wheelchair. I'm just going to assume
Right.
that that's what Attorney McAvoy will say to me, and but I will check that out.
Yeah,
For sure.
that makes
Yep.
sense. Any other questions about the changes? All right. Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? And I say yes, so that is unanimous and that is passed. And we are officially meeting Jared's deadline to send that out tomorrow. Welcome, Jared. Anything specific to a curriculum instruction and instruction update, Dr. C? No.
No, there isn't, although we are we're getting ready for, of course, all of the regular updates as they come in September, October, whether it be reporting out on our improvement plans or otherwise, but no, not this time.
I'm just taking, okay. These do seem to be, yep, so we have some new surplus items. So it looks like it is mostly science books from middle school room 5. Should anyone be in need of a collegiate dictionary, certainly reach out. Just as a reminder for those who might not be familiar with surplus items are various items that are identified around the school as being too out of date or too broken to be used by the district any longer. And so we surplus them. There is, for some of them, there's often an offer that goes out for folks if they should want them. But typically that then allows us to remove them from the building and no longer happen here. So I would entertain a motion to accept the attached list of outdated science books from the middle school to be recycled.
So,
Motion by Hank, second by Heather. Any questions or comments about any of those science books or dictionaries? Seeing none, all in favor?
aye.
Opposed? Abstained? And I say yes, so that is unanimous. And it turns out that science has indeed changed since 2000. Okay, so school choice, Dr. C. I know that we wanted to have a conversation around school choice, so we have it on here. So I will hand it over to you so that you can run through.
So, Madam Chair, as you know, we've detailed school choice and what it does in terms of health, budget costs. We all know that there are X amount of teachers in that. That was done somewhere circa 2010, 2011. And we don't know what our school choice officially, we don't know what our school choice in and out is until they do the initial report, in December, though we get a very good idea when we do our SIMS reporting. So that, that's a lead up to the fact that what we did, if you remember, there were slots that were approved by the school committee, mostly at the middle school and the high school. 8, I think, and the rising 5th, I think 8, the rising 6th, none in rising 7. I believe rising 10th grade, 9th and 10th grade. I just don't have it in front of me. So we went through the process as we do. First, we did not fill all of our spots. Some just, we contacted the list and they're, either they've secured other, educational arrangements or just didn't want to school choice. So, as we've been watching, our enrollment, what we know is that given what we don't know about the new apartments, we are understanding that although the lottery has been completed and folks are being now, if I understand this correctly, they receive a lottery, basically a number, and now they go through the process of seeing whom will get what apartments, et cetera. We made a phone call 2 weeks ago and said, we'd really like to get an idea of what to expect. They weren't ready to tell us next. They had yet to assign, as far as what they told me, their apartments to the lucky folks who, have applied for them. So I don't feel comfortable, although, we have the most, interest in school choice at the elementary, but it just wouldn't be prudent to do that. And we're fairly close to, occupancy as we talked about before. So that just would not be as smart. What we do know is that, we've seen an uptick of again, initially, we don't know ultimately, so that's 2 weeks of, really when people start waking up and reminding them at school. But we have seen a decrease in the rising 7th grade. Okay. So the rising 7th grade, at a grand total of 116 kiddos, in the rising seventh grade. We know that we've lost at least 5 there, at this point, or at least that's what the design is. That's what they told us, either through actual, paperwork to transfer, or at least verbally have told us. I would like to add those 5 back, quite frankly. We have carried, and I say this, comfortably, but not only comfortably, but safely, and all the important things. We've carried up to 125 per grade, back in the day when we were wide open for school choice. This would only bring us back up to roughly about 117, 118, just given what we've lost. It doesn't exhaust the entire wait list. We'd have to do a lottery from that grade. I don't know how many, I think it was 12 or 13 kiddos on that when we first initially put it out there. So why do we need to do this? Well, again, we're not taking in as many school choice kids as we were. We've talked about this ad nauseum. It's important, if for no other reason, is to cover those salaries, because we cannot go up. We do not want to go upside down, as we talked about. And I'm trying to do so in a very, conscious manner, without just wide open again. That's not a smart move. But I want to do it where I can, just because we need to make sure that number stays healthy, that differential. We're projecting, quite frankly, if we're 2 years away from it, we're going to have to make a decision one way or another. There just will not be enough coming in to satisfy everything that we're doing in that regard with school choice. That's why staff should never look at school choice, just like insurance should never be put in school choice. I'll say it to the day I leave here. It's just too unreliable, right? So all that being said, that is my request. It does not in any way, put the 7th grade in a situation where they're over, they got too many students. It'll be somewhere around 23, 24, depending on how far out you want to go with the decimal point, per class. That is where we sit normally anyway. We've sat at 25 and 26 and at the middle, especially. That is not something that we worry about.
Is that the only grade you're looking at?
It's the only grade that I feel comfortable doing because of everything I've just said.
Offset the loss.
Exactly. I'm just trying to offset what I know I've lost, although we won't know fully until,
Okay. So school choice is a very complicated topic, for those of you who have followed all of our budget conversations. The challenge with school choice is that you only get part of the monies that would normally be given to a district if that student were to attend their home district. So you don't get the full monies, you get part of the monies. On the flip side, the challenge in this district in particular is that many years ago, and so that gives you an idea of how long it takes to correct financial decisions in a district. Many years ago, decisions were made prior to folks sitting at this table, that certain positions at certain essentials would be funded from school choice. Now, best practice would be to only fund like one-time costs out of school choice. But unfortunately, we're sort of stuck with this challenge. Now, just as a reminder again, several years ago, we did successfully finally move funding of insurance out of school choice altogether. So I would like it to be noted that the folks who are sitting around this table really put a lot of energy, effort, and time into figuring out how to move insurance out of that school choice budgeting. And so really, that will put a motion on the table, and then we can have further deliberation as to whether or not that's something we're willing to do. So I would entertain I would entertain a motion to add 5 rising 7th graders to school choice for the FY27 school year. Motion by Danielle, second by Heather. Any questions or comments about that ask? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed, abstained, and I say yes, so that is unanimous. All right, Dr. Cassavant, it is your time to shine. It is your superintendent report.
It's been obviously this goes, it's been a very busy 3-4 months. I'd be remiss if I didn't thank honestly, every voter that showed up. A couple of weeks ago. I know that there are folks in here who have seen bigger crowds. I've been here for 10 years and I have never seen a crowd packed into the auditorium. That people, all of us who were interested in this one way or another, say show up and go. It happened. So I do. There were no winners. Certainly in there. I echo all that we're going to have to figure something out because this is just not sustainable. So, but I wanted to make sure that I did say thank you to the folks who took time on that Monday night to pack that place almost to every seat. I don't know that there were many seats that were open. I want to thank Justice Grace. I did thank him personally, but I want to thank him, I guess, here. He did unbelievable in a very high pressure situation in terms of voting clickers.
Yes.
If there was a better word, I do not know. He literally made that happen, and it was unbelievable. He is so. I tell you, both our attorney and the moderator said that to me in separate situations that they just could not believe how detailed he was, and I think that carried the day. Especially in a very hot auditorium. I just want to thank him publicly for that. It was amazing. TCTV, who did, again, they always do a great job, right? But they were there, were very helpful to the whole process as we had to figure out some things that because we don't hold a lot of district-wide meetings, although we probably more than some districts. But we generally don't have that down pat. Both towns, in terms of the clerks and literally have this absolutely down. You feel very confident, comfortable talking to them. I just need to thank everybody for that. It was just, look, it wasn't a great experience. It was uncomfortable. It was, not a great night, but it was run very, very well. And I want to make sure that I thank people who actually made that happen. If I've forgotten something, I apologize. The roof, well, it kind of went dormant for a while. We were as sometimes these things happen as they try to gear up to get the project moving. Over the last couple of days, that quick, right? So we've had several meetings. They put the trailer on campus, the work trailer on campus. We have logistics figured out where they will drop. I will be putting this out very soon. But the dirt lot will be off limits to generally everyone except for the folks who are fixing our roof. They needed a staging area. There's a lot of things that need to be there to be fenced off in a sense. And so that's where we'll stage. They will stage. If we were to take at its word the calendar or the timeline, they should be out of here by the end of October. But to be candid, although we do not know today, it's supposed to be today, they need 2 steel beams that needs to be in place over what we call the small cafeteria. They have yet to secure that at this point in time. And we have John Cutler, who's our OPM, is very much on it and they took the timeline, they signed up for this basically, and so this is their responsibility. So there's more to come on that. But what that's going to do, and this will be messaged out as well, is that we won't be able to use the small cafeteria for lunches. The large cafeteria and the actual kitchen, yes, but the small cafeteria, no. So when you feed 700 and some odd students and you need both cafeterias, that becomes a logistical issue. But we're thankful for COVID in the that we had to be in the gym. Some of you don't know that or forgotten or chose to forget that, but we had to utilize the gym because the spacing, we couldn't space well enough in the cafeteria. So we'll have to utilize the gym for approximately a month. And we're working on that now. We know how to do it. We figured it out, but that'll lead to something that we'll have to, tackle as we go forward. I do like to plan. There's always going to be something something is going to go awry. So here is our thing. It's not something that, when I say not concerned about, we are of course keeping an eye on it, but it will not impede our day to day. There'll be displays. They'll have to eat whatever lunch is in the gym. But other than that, everything will be a status quo. So we'll have a bigger and a better update next meeting, because we just really started getting into the logistics of where everything will go. Now everything is now being purchased, PO'd through the systems and everything. So you'll start seeing some activity here. In terms of us getting ready for the school year, speaking of custodians, they do a fantastic job. Our buildings are looking fantastic. Definitely in response to the 13, there's not 13 custodians. There are 2.5 maintenance folks who take care of everything, maintenance wise here. So there's, and I know that that's sometimes confusing because they're under the custodial union, but they do not actually do custodial duties per their union. So we really only have one person who does two people who do either all of the grounds, which, are substantial, and any of the things that, fix any of the things that break, which of course in school with kids is considerable. So I do that can be confusing, and given the square footage, we have a lot to do in terms of how we have to keep the buildings clean. So they're doing a fantastic job. We are, again, we're ready. As always, staff will come back on Thursday, August 20, what's the date? 26th. I believe that's the Thursday. Yep. And they'll be here Thursday, Friday for their mandatory trainings. And then, of course, kiddos who I know are just chomping at the bit to come back. Only the parents are for sure. But they'll come back the 31st of August and off we go.
Have them anytime.
We will take them August 31st.
Any questions for Dr. Z before we move on? Seeing none, there were no items not reasonably anticipated, so I will open it up for school committee comments. So in terms of subcommittee reports, subcommittees generally don't meet over the summer. And I will just thank my fellow school committee member, in addition to everyone that Dr. C thanked in relation to the meetings. It is also, I would like to thank my fellow school committee members because there were a lot more meetings this summer than there typically are. And as many of us are also parents who are juggling kids that are home. That is something that I just want to make sure that we're thanking folks for. I also want to, I feel like you said this, but I'm blanking, so I'm going to make sure it gets said. I also want to thank our select board members from both towns who both came that evening, and also particularly to Templeton, who came on short notice to the meeting to select our moderator for the meeting. Getting all those logistics in place and getting everyone we needed around the tables where we needed them to make sure everything happened was nothing short of a miracle. And then finally, thanks to central office, because y'all were so quick with, we need this date, we need that date, we need to do this, we need to do that. Let's get in touch with the state. Let's get in touch. I cannot tell you the logistics they were managing behind the scenes that none of you all had exposure to. I had some exposure to it because I was on all the emails that were going back and forth to figure this out. So just wanted to give some extra recognition out there. And of course, I will give some thanks to our community members. And with that, we have no correspondence. Our next meeting is September 17th at 5:30 p.m. And I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So.
Motion by Hank. Second by Heather. All in favor. Thank you so much, everyone. We really appreciate your time this evening.